everyone, this is Gabrielle Johnson with Best Life Dog Services, and I want to talk with you about temperature checks and how they can really change the game for you and your dog. So one of the first things that I teach my clients is about body language and about stress levels. I have a great video on my YouTube channel about stress levels and how they affect your dog's ability to learn and process. So we talk about that, and we talk about what body language goes along with what levels of stress and what the dog is trying to communicate so that we can work within the dog's best learning space. So they feel safe and they feel secure, and their stress levels are such that they can learn and process information appropriately, make thoughtful decisions. And so body language is a great way that we can tell where the dog is, but there are some changes in behavior that we might notice earlier on that can clue us in, even before the body language sometimes starts to change, that our dog is starting to get up to a level where they may not be successful if they were to encounter another trigger, whether that's a trigger that frightens them or causes them anxiety, or a trigger that is very exciting to them, or perhaps a frustrating situation that they might be in. So there are three main things that I teach my clients to look for other than that body language, and these are called our temperature checks. So number one is your auto check-in. So first, you have to have an auto check-in. So this is something that I tend to have dogs start out with. We need your dog to be able to connect with you and for you to have a way of making sure you're connected with your dog. So one of the first things I often have clients do is to introduce a marker, such as a verbal marker like yes or yep, or a mechanical marker. Often I have folks learn both, so that if you don't have your clicker, you still have that verbal marker, but I really love a mechanical marker because the sound is very clear. It's always going to be the same, very distinct, often kind of cuts through that white noise when our voice is maybe fading into the background. So I love a mechanical clicker as well, but we take that, and every time the dog looks at you, we mark and reward. And I have clients start this in the house, where a lot of dogs are going to have an easy time giving you eye contact, and so you're going to see that happen quite frequently. Some dogs, eye contact is very hard, and so for those dogs we might make it even easier and just mark and reward for the dog, orienting in the person's direction. And so we can adapt this, but soon you'll get to the point where the dog is just staring at you. Where's my next treat? Where's my next treat? That's when you can drop down to a more variable rate of reinforcement in the house. But starting there, where they can easily be successful, is going to mean that you start to see that behavior more easily on walks. And I definitely want you to capture that behavior on walks when your dog looks up at you. And so we teach that auto check-in. And then when we go to our temperature checks, when we're used to having a dog who checks in with us, every 3 to 4 seconds. And this isn't like keeping the neck craned up. It's just a glance in your direction. That kind of, it's keeping this kind of connection. So like, say you were out and about with a friend, at pre-pandemic days, maybe a farmer's market or a festival, and you kind of split off, but you glance back at each other. Hey, hi, I'm here. Hey, I'm going over this way. And so aware of each other, even if you're doing your own thing. And then you might start to notice that your dog is nose to the ground, sniffing around. So we might lose that auto check-in. It's been 15, 20 seconds since the dog looked up. I might stop where I am and just let the dog explore. If they're not getting escalated, but they're just really getting into their environment, I'll let them really dig into that environment and sniff around. And then when they're ready, they'll, look back at me, and I'll say, okay, good, we're good. Let's add some more stimuli because you've checked back in with me. And when they do that check-in, I will mark it with my marker, and I will see if they respond to that marker normally. When stress levels are increasing, we see processing decrease, and so it starts to take the dog more time to respond to known cues. So that's the second temperature check. Is your dog responding to known cues normally? So that could be their marker, the clicker, or the verbal yes. It could be their name, right? I might say, Cyan. And if Cyan looks back at me as he normally does, or if I click for that eye contact and he looks at me like he normally does and says, comes in for that treat, I can say, okay, you're processing that normally. It normally takes you about 2 seconds to do that, to hear the sound and respond. If it takes longer, if it takes my dog 10 seconds, or if they kind of turn their head and then don't come back, or I click for eye contact but they keep going, then I can say, okay, we're not responding to the marker normally. And that doesn't mean that I try again and again, right? It's not about getting the dog to respond necessarily. It's about the information. Is my dog in a space where they are responding to their marker? Are they able to do their auto check-in? And the third is how are they taking food? So as stress increases, the digestive system is going offline, and you may find that your dog, stops taking food altogether, only takes high value food, kind of takes food and then spits it out. Can't find food that you scatter on the ground. So if your dog starts taking food harder or is turning down treats, that's another sign that we don't want to go any farther. So if the answer to any of those temperature checks is no, I encourage my clients to stop where they are. Now, these are for dogs that are having trouble on walks. So if I have a dog that is just, able to, Spock comes to mind, we're able to just walk and do our thing and sniff. And if I need him, he's going to be able to hear me. And that's our consistent pattern. Then you're a bit beyond this with that dog, perhaps. You don't need this. So this is really helpful for folks who have moments on the walk where they're having trouble getting their dog's attention, or their dog can wind up in a situation that they can't handle, and they need to be able to be connected with their dog voluntarily, cooperatively, so that their dog can engage in learning and avoid stressful situations that they're not ready for, and cope with the situations that are coming up. And so again, that auto check-in, can you respond to cues normally? Are you taking food normally? And then when the answer to all three of those things is yes, we'll continue on. And of course, there's caveats for everything. If my dog is not paying attention because they're trying to get away from a scary thing, which is not always obvious to us. Sometimes we have to pay special attention. Car doors slamming over here, all of a sudden my dog's dragging me over here. We preserve that flight response. So certainly there are exceptions. And ultimately, the dogs get to a point where they are coping on their own. They need less intervention from us. And so we start to back this up again, like I just said, like Spock, for example, he doesn't need to check in with me like every few seconds, even that casual check-in. If he's stuck on a smell for something very exciting just happened over there. If he's stuck on a smell, and just, moving around and sniffing and having a fun time, that's totally fine. But he's also going, if a horde of dogs came running up on us, I would also be able to get his attention right away. And so those are three things you can start to look for. You might be surprised how much shorter your walk becomes when you are waiting for that feedback from your dog. And that's okay, because during that time, while you're waiting for that check-in, we're assuming that they're checking out the environment. And if they're having a harder time, if they're not checking in because they're escalating, and because they're getting more aroused and there's a trigger coming, well, then there are different things that we need to do there. We need to back the situation up a little bit and help them to be successful, increase the distance, lower the intensity of the distraction. And so this is definitely not the fix to everything, right? But it's important information that can tell us, where is my dog on this stress scale? What are they capable of right now in terms of processing information, in terms of responding to me? And it can really help you get a closer look at what's going on with your dog. So again, have we lost our auto check-ins? Are we responding to known cues normally? And are we taking food? Again, normally, whatever that baseline is when the dog is not under stress. So I hope that this is helpful to you. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And have a great day, friends.